O Parvatikar, the preserver and protector of all, you're without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison, and none can measure you. You're without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You're unlimited and unfathomable, beyond imagination and conception. You're eternal and imperishable. You're invisible. None can see you but with eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You are everywhere. You are in everything. And you are also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You're in the firmament and in the depths. You're manifest and unmanifest, on all planes and beyond all planes. You're in the three worlds and beyond the three worlds. You're imperceptible and independent. You're the creator of the lords, knower of all minds and hearts. You're omnipotent and omnipresent. You're knowledge infinite, power infinite, and bliss infinite. You're the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, infinitely knowing, nor the past, present, and future. You're knowledge itself. You're all-merciful, eternally benevolent. You're the souls of souls, one with infinite attributes. You're the trinity of truth, the knowledge and bliss. You're the source of truth, the ocean of love. You're the ancient one, highest of the high. You're Prabhu and Parameshwar. You're beyond God and beyond God also. You're Brahma, Allah, Ilah, Yazdan, our Mazda, and God the Beloved. You named Izzat, the only one worthy of worship.
Thank you. Soham, could you do the repentance prayer? Soham?
Can I do it?
Okay, you can do it.
We repent, O God, most merciful for all our sin, for every thought spoken, for every thought that was false or just or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, for every deed done that ought not to have been done. We repent for every deed and word and thought inspired by selfishness, and for every deed and word and thought inspired by hatred. Most especially, we repent for every lustful thought and every lustful action, for every lie, for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and for all slander and backbiting. Especially also, we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, for every word and deed that has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall on others. In your abundant mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, to forgive us for our constant failures, to think and speak and act according to your will.
Awesome. Meher, do you want to do the beloved God prayer?
Yeah, sure. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and still yet more, till we become the worthy of union with you, and help us all to hold fast to Baba Dhamma until the very end. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
All right. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. So, guys, we are here because tomorrow is a very special day, right? So who can tell me why tomorrow is special? And guys, go ahead, unmute right now. We're just having a conversation later on. And this is a conversation with Kathy, and we'll tell you exactly why, Kathy is here. So who can tell me why tomorrow is important? First of all, what day is tomorrow?
Tomorrow's May 24th.
All right. So why is it important, Trinity? You were going to say something. Sorry.
Because Baba's accident happened on May 24th, 1952.
Awesome. Anybody else wants to contribute to that? So who are with him in the car? It's a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So most of his beloved women, Mandali?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, were with him. And Mehra had the most number of Baba and Mehra shared half of the injuries.
That's right. And who was driving the car?
Elizabeth?
Yes, that's right, Shireen, Elizabeth. So the reason why we have Kathy here is because she spent a lot of time at the center. She's going to tell us exactly how long, right? With Elizabeth, helping Elizabeth and Kitty, who were very instrumental in getting the whole, center together for Baba, right? His home in the West. And It took them many years. We talked about that in the beginning, remember, at the PowerPoint slides. If you guys want to bring it up later, if you want me to bring it up, we can, just to refresh our memories. But there were 4 criteria, right? Do you guys remember what they were? Okay, don't worry about that. This is not a quiz. But one of the most important things was that the center, or I guess it had to be given from the heart, right? So whose family contributed to that? Do you guys remember?
I think it was like Elizabeth's father or somebody.
You're right. Elizabeth's father contributed to that. So this is where, you know, it's such an interesting connection, right? Elizabeth's father contributed. Then Baba had told her 20 years, right? 1932, you know, he gave her the flowers, said, keep this with you, remember this day. And then what happened? 20 years later, they were driving from Myrtle Beach to California, and then the accident happened. And who was driving the car but Elizabeth, right? So this is where, since Kathy got to spend a lot of time with these incredible women, you know, I wanted her to come here and talk to all of you. You guys are free to ask questions. She has a lot of stories to share, so we can learn more about these women, right? And we also celebrated Women's History Month, right? Last month, and then we saw how women in the past were compared to where we are now. And I think it's a great time now to be a woman compared to 60, 70 years ago, right? Or even before that. So more power to us, but I think we rest on the shoulders of all of these incredible women who have, you know, helped shape. And it was all Baba's doing, right? Like he came to uplift, you know, us from the craziness that was happening. So Kathy, I think I spoke a lot, so now it's to you. And guys, at any time, first of all, turn on your videos if you can, because it's really nice for Kathy to see everyone's beautiful faces. And 2, if you have a question, you know, just raise your hand and I will call on you. Or if we're just having a conversation, feel free to contribute. Okay. All right, Kathy, you got the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And it's wonderful to see your kids, Soham and Sahana and Meher Shrinika. Is that your name?
That's my sister's name.
Oh, what is your name again?
Srinidhi.
Shrinidhi. Sorry. Shrinidhi. Oh, I like that. Shrinidhi. Okay. Thank you. I'm so glad you remembered about Elizabeth. Anyway, it's just wonderful. And of course, Jay Shri, it's nice to see you again. I was so fortunate to have served Elizabeth Patterson, Kitty Davy at Dilruba, their home, for 12 years. 12 years was the time I spent there. When I came in 1979, Elizabeth actually was only there, you know, alive until the end of 1980. So she passed at the end of 80. So I knew her and served her for a year and a half. Margaret Crass would come from work in New York at her ballet job, you know, at Christmas and the summers. So I had quite a bit of time with her when she would vacation there. And Kitty lived to be 100 and a half. So that was, of course, she was the longest living of all of them. I knew Margaret quite a long time until she passed Kitty died in 1991 and Margaret died, I think it was 1990. So their service and their one-pointed devotion to Baba was so inspiring, and they really didn't talk much about the accident time. I read about it more, and I was just amazed, especially in reading about how much Elizabeth suffered in that accident. It was unfathomable thinking about all those broken ribs and in terrible pain. And, you know, Baba's telling her to go faster and faster, and then the car, and she swerved into the ditch, and then seeing, you know, here she is with broken ribs and blood all over, and she's asking, of course, the first thing she says is, how is beloved Baba? You know, of course, that was, I mean, just thinking about it, she's like probably almost unconscious from pain, asking, how is Baba? How is Mara? And it must have been so incredibly painful for her, who loved them with all her heart, to see that. And of course, on some level, blaming herself. And it was such an incredible gift that Baba gave her, that she opened the Bible later and saw May 24th, 1932 was when he gave her the flower. And here we are, May 24th, 1952. And then, of course, realizing that Baba had planned this all. And on one level, it really wasn't, it wasn't her fault. Baba was the vehicle he used, you know, his dear ones, his closest ones, to do his work. And part of that was to suffer with him. And she was born into makes me feel like weeping. Because she was stooped over from a childhood accident, falling off a horse. So she was already quite, you know, hunched over. And then the accident created more hunching and pain. I think she was really in pain a lot of the times. But before she met Baba, she was raised in what's called a Christian Science family. Her father, Simeon Chapin, who was one of the early developers of Myrtle Beach, was a Christian Scientist. And one of the philosophies is to overcome any physical suffering through mental control. And, you know, a lot of times the whole idea that disease sometimes can be from dis-ease, you know, that from stress, that, and you can create, you know, illness through dis-ease, and it becomes disease. So the Christian Science philosophy was very much a part of her upbringing, and she abhorred anybody complaining about their illnesses. I remember she never complained about when she didn't feel well. And I know she didn't feel well quite a lot, but she would never complain about that. She was very strong. Every week I would take her for an injection for, she had pernicious anemia, which is like a sort of an anemia, like low anemia. I guess it's not enough iron in your blood. And so she had to have injections for that. And another remembrance, so she would be tired a lot of the time. So she would get these vitamin B shots for that. There was a doctor, her doctor happened to be called Dr. Payne. Maybe it was Kitty's doctor, but once when I was taking her to the doctor, she said to me in her wonderful, understated way, she said, Dr. Payne, you know, that's not such a nice name for a doctor. You'd think if he was a doctor, he would change his name from a different name than Dr. Payne. So she had a good sense of humor about that. She never talked to me about what she suffered in the accident, although I know it was terribly difficult. I remember the story that, you know, she must have had some intuition. She was very intuitive. Just before they left Myrtle Beach to go across the country to what they thought was going to be California, she asked Kitty to go back into the house and make sure they had the insurance papers for the car, you know, the car insurance papers. So she must have had some intuition that they had to have everything just right. And so another story I was told recently from my friend Lois, who also worked there for Kitty and Elizabeth, was that when they came back to Myrtle Beach, they stayed in Yupon Dunes, which was the home of her father. And Baba was upstairs, recovering, and Elizabeth was downstairs, but she was in so much pain that when Baba called her and she had to go up the steps, the story that Lois was told by Kitty or Elizabeth was that because the steps hurt her so much to walk, she would put telephone books on the steps so that the grade of the walk up wasn't so great, so that she could get upstairs to Baba without such tremendous pain. And she would then take the telephone book and put it on the next step so that it was a less of a grade. And even in her terrible pain, she was in less pain that way. Once when I was driving Elizabeth downtown to the bank or some errand, she pointed out a field and she said, I have to tell you a story about that field off of Oak Street and 21st Avenue. She said, after we were back in Myrtle Beach, Mara was so badly injured, she had that injury, when she fell on the ground, that she was seeing double. She couldn't see, single vision because of that injury that affected her brain. And I'm not sure if it was Elizabeth or somebody saw an advertisement that there would be a horse show downtown in that field off of 21st Avenue and Oak Street. And knowing that Elizabeth knew that Mara loved horses so much, she used to ride and she was crazy about horses. They thought, well, maybe this would cheer her up after the accident to go to the horse show. So they suggested this to Baba and he said, oh yes, let's go. And they, carefully brought Baba and Mara in the car to this horse show. And Mara was so thrilled to see that there would be horses that she might be able to see, that even though she was seeing double, Elizabeth told me that there she was straining her eyes to be able to see the horses. And this was the first time, because she strained so hard to see these beloved horses that she loved so much, that she saw, again, normally she saw one horse instead of two at this horse show downtown in Myrtle Beach. And Baba was so happy. And of course, Mara was so happy that she was seeing normally for the first time after this accident. I'm sure you have heard that the doctor, when he saw the x-ray of Mara's fracture, said this woman, first of all, that he thought she would never live. And, just because her injuries were so profound. And so what a miracle that she even survived that. Elizabeth, as I said, never complained. Kitty was helping in the second car. She was very helpful to Elizabeth. I never heard her talk about the accident. I know that Margaret would say that she was called by Delia in London and said, Baba has said, Cable, to please come down to the site to Prague, and he would like you, Margaret, to exercise Baba and Mara and give your specific isometric exercises in which you're mostly small little motions or pressing against, there are specific exercises that he knew that Margaret knew that would not be a difficult exercise, but yet would help. And when Margaret rushed from New York, I assume she flew to Prague, she was exercising Baba and Mara, and some of the Mandali who were there were very, very concerned that, she was exercising Baba and Mara, and Baba had been so strict about Mara not being you know, touched by anybody else, and that Baba was not to be touched in certain ways. And Baba said he specifically wanted Margaret Krask to be there to exercise him and to exercise Mara. And she told me, I remember at Dilruba, that she would be so exhausted about these just half an hour sessions that she would have to go and sleep very deeply. And I'm sure Baba, whatever he was doing through Margaret, was some profound inner work that was going on in a universal way, because she said she never felt herself so tired. She had to go and sleep before she would get up and do the next half hour session. Those were some of these are some of my first remembrances about Kitty, Elizabeth, and Margaret, and the accident time.
That's awesome. Kathy, we actually have Barbara, and I don't know who Etzion is. Sorry. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves to the tweens here.
And Barbara is a friend of mine whom I invited to come and join us, and she was very close to Kitty and knew Margaret and Elizabeth. And I don't know if she'd like to share anything, because she has many memories of these wonderful women as well.
Oh, we can't hear you, Barbara.
Barbara, unmute. Oh,
We can't hear you.
can you, unmute. Barbara, can you unmute? No, she's not. Barbara? Okay, I don't know. Okay, there you are. We can hear you now, Barbara?
I think there may be some settings issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in the meantime, I don't know who this is. Would you like to introduce yourself? I'm so sorry.
Are you asking Etzion?
Yes.
Etzion, you're in Israel, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Hello.
I remember being in the office when you met Kitty.
I remember
Yeah,
you.
Baba, thank you for joining. Do you have any special memories that you'd like to share? Well, Barbara,
Myself?
and we are talking about the accident, so, kind of just bringing it all together. Thank you.
Asking me about the accident?
Yes.
I know what you know. I know from Lord Mayor, etc. I don't have, of course, anything personal about this.
I mean, about Kitty, anything you remember?
I just met Kitty once in her office. She asked, when I came to the center in 1991, I believe, it was a Gulf War. And we were touring the East Coast. And as soon as I came to the center, Kitty requested that I'll come over, and had some little chat with her, and Kathy was there. I remember her, and that's all.
Yeah. So Etzion would have been given the royal treatment, and Kitty would have never complained about anything like the accident. It just these people just were so much serving Baba and serving each who came and seeing Baba in each. So
Kathy, with Kitty, so she was literally taking care of Elizabeth, right, throughout the whole in Prague?
Yes.
And I forget, was it Mehru? I can't remember now.
Mehru was there. Yes, it was in the car. Her wrists were broken. I remember that. So Kitty was there. Let's see, Sarosh was driving the second car that Kitty was in. So and in the first, so in the first car was, of course, Baba, Mara, Mehru, and I think was Goher in the first car. I think so.
I think Goher came later with Sarosh.
Came later.
Yeah.
Mani, that's right, maybe Mani. And Mani was, of course, the least injured, and of course felt very badly about that. I know Barbara's saying she's trying
Kathy,
to.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
That
Okay.
was the setting. Okay, it was just a computer setting. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm right around the corner from Kathy. She's visiting in Weaverville, and we're just literally 2 streets away from each other. So it's very
So,
nice to
Barbara,
be
these
joining.
are all the tweens that we have. I'll do a quick introduction since you've never met them. So there's
Nice.
Meher, who is 10, and he is in Connecticut. His sister is Shireen over there, and she's 15, 15, 14, something like that. 14. We're almost there to 15. Srinidhi lives in Colorado, right? And she's 12. And then we have Soham and Sahana, who are not turning on their video, but they're my kids. We usually have more, but you know, with the summer and you know, schedule conflicts, we're missing a few. But here we are, the lucky ones.
So nice to meet you all in
Yeah,
all your
and then,
various places.
And the non-tweens are Jayashree, who's my mother-in-law, and then Shailaja, who is Meher and Shireen's mom.
Hi, Shailaja. Hi, Jayashree.
Barbara had a lot of connection with Kitty, especially, but also Margaret and Elizabeth, and would make fabulous meals for these women, especially English delights for Kitty, who was missing England, and plum pudding at Christmas, and on scones, and on and on. But I know we're talking more about the accident, so
yes.
So Barbara, I'm sure you have.
I heard that story about Mara's vision suddenly improving so much at the horse show, and I heard it was Mani who called out, "Mara, look, horses," and that was the moment at which Mara focused on it and her eyesight cleared. I heard that there was that. Yeah, I thought that was a sweet story too.
Yeah. Did Kitty or Elizabeth Margaret ever talk to you about the accident, Barbara?
No. No, you know, it was very dramatic stuff, and most of our interactions are about sort of normal everyday life. But, you know, they would talk at special occasions or in the barn before Silence Day or Baba's birthday or whatever, and share those in a more, I don't know, communal setting, and also where, you know, something so serious had kind of a better format than in casual conversations. I don't remember, especially Kitty, I had a more conversational relationship with her, and I don't remember her really ever talking about it.
So can we, because both of you were so close to these women, we would love to know more about their personalities, you know, each one of them, and any favorite stories that you have, because, you know, they're carrying a heavy, I wouldn't say burden, but it is, right? Like with doing Baba's work, because it's not easy to do, you know. I mean, we have a hard time, you know, in general, like doing our jobs and our homework, but this is a work at a different level that they've been doing for Baba, right? So, but at the same time, you know, by the way, Kathy, I'm going to introduce them to your book. This is Dilruba Days, and it's a lot of beautiful stories about all of these 3 women. So it's actually, you know, pretty good. The kids can read it too if they want to. But I just wanted, like, you know, personal like accounts from you guys, because, you know, they've gone through a lot of, in our words, tragedy in life, right? Like, you know, in a spiritual level, it's more of a blessing, right? But if we look at it from a common man's place, so could you guys share some of those insights? And, you know, kids, please ask questions, because this is your time with these, you know, wonderful ladies, and Etzion, if you can jump in, to share their personal memories, right? Like, were they grumpy? Were they like, oh my God, you know, my leg hurts, my arm hurts? You know, obviously from hearing from you, Kathy, you know, Elizabeth never complained about pain, which is, you know, so it's just interesting, because I think we can, it's almost like, you know, they're idyllic women, right? Like they're ideal. So I would love to hear, or we would love to hear. And any questions, guys, please ask. This is your time. We have a shy bunch.
I think one of the things I was most aware of early on was that Baba had asked Kitty to stay back in 52 when he was at the center, after he came back from Prague, you know, he called Elizabeth into his room at Yukon Dunes and said he would like her to stay back in America and administrate the Meher Baba Center. They were expecting to go back to live with him in India, as they had for many years. So that was, you know, of course, yes, Baba, obedience is greater than love. And so Elizabeth said yes. And then Baba asked, whom would you like to help you run the center, Elizabeth? Rano or Kitty is the story I heard. And Elizabeth picked Kitty because she knew she would be, Elizabeth told me, more of a compliment to her nature. Kitty was very people-oriented. Elizabeth was quieter and shyer and just strong, but just more reserved. And Kitty was the people person who loved being with people. And so then Kitty was called, would you stay back and help Elizabeth run the Baba Center? Again, yes, Baba. Neither one would have said no to Baba's request, but both would have preferred to be with Baba. So obedience was there, and they stayed and really saw Baba, you know, in 56 and 58, when he came back to the center in 62, and then they didn't see Baba again until, you know, they didn't see him again. So there they are, serving and giving all of us so much love and guidance. Kitty, serving Elizabeth, she took it to such an extreme that I remember being in her bedroom and seeing a picture, not of herself and Baba, but she had a photo of Elizabeth and Baba on her wall. I mean, it's just to such an extent that no pictures of herself with Baba, but Baba had asked her to serve Elizabeth. So here she is. There's a picture of Elizabeth and Baba, you know, by the barn on her wall in her bedroom. And here they are, very different personalities, living under the same roof, you know, and she's doing her best to be there for Elizabeth and to abnegate herself in Baba's love. But we didn't really hear that. She never would complain. She was always there for all of us to help us love Baba more and give us direction. And of course, as many of you know, Kitty had many malapropisms. She had funny word slips that are famous to this day. And as I was recently given an amaryllis plant with beautiful blossoms, and it started opening up, I remember Kitty pointing to the amaryllis plant that she had been given at Christmas. As I came into work, she said, oh, look, 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 look. Jessie has just brought me the most beautiful, oh, what is it called again? An armadillo plant. That's right, an armadillo plant. So, you know, there's just endless funny things Kitty said. They were so selfless. One day I followed Kitty around as I was working there, trying to see if she would slip up and belie a sort of a selfish moment in which she would be thinking of herself or would say something that felt not Baba oriented. And the whole day, I just watched her like a hawk. And even, you know, just watching every movement and every word. And by the end of the day, I could not detect one selfish motive. Everything was for the service of others. And I had heard Margaret had said Kitty had been very moody when she knew her in the early 30s. She said, you can't imagine how Mayor Baba has changed Kitty Davy. She used to be so moody. And, you know, Kitty never had a touch of moodiness that I ever saw. So I could go on, but Barbara, you could say some wonderful things about Elizabeth and Kitty, I'm sure.
Well, I remember reading, I think it was Tony Paterniti was writing about some discussions he'd had with Kitty that, you know, she had lived for 15 years in India with Baba. She'd given up her life, all her social connections and family ties. Her mother had died while she was away. All of these things had happened. And she expected to spend the rest of her life with Baba, having made the sacrifice of everything personal. She expected to go on that way until the end of her life. And then, of course, when the accident happened and she was posted to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is a backwater, and it's humid, and it was narrow-minded and provincial, and she's a woman from London who had traveled the world and had, you know, a vast experience of life, and here she ends up just plunked down into this swamp. So Tony heard from her that in 1956 and again in 1958, it's like she didn't quite get the lesson. When she knew Baba was coming, she had tied up all her loose ends and she had her suitcases ready to go because she presumed he was going to take her back to her real life, which was to her, her life in India. And on neither 1956 nor 1958 visit did he say anything to her. He just came and went without even mentioning, oh, don't worry, one day you'll be back where you feel happy and at home. So each time it was just like another wrenching experience of not even being consulted about it, not even a matter of discussion. So she would unpack her suitcase again. And I think the last time she saw Baba was at the 62 East-West Gathering, where she was in a crowd of people. And it was never again the way that her life had been with him before 1952 and the accident, you know, when it was so very personal.
So, Barbara, a question on that. So again, you know, we have tweens here. So, and you know, we all complain, right? I mean, I think it's just human nature. So when these things happen, right? And I'd like them to kind of change perspective and think about it, right? So now think of you guys. What do you have events in your life where you're thinking something's going to happen? For example, Srinidhi, right? Like, hey, I'm going to go to golf lessons today. And then all of a sudden, your parents are like, nope, you're not going because you didn't do X, Y, and Z. How do you react, right? And I want to know, like, did Kitty, like, would, I mean, maybe she didn't say it outwardly, but did anyone actually hear her complain ever when Baba said, sorry, change of plans?
No, I mean, that was, I remember as I was working on my Dilruba Days book, I went back to her autobiography, Love Alone Prevails, and read the story of that 62, the last time, you know, Kitty was in Guru Prasad, and again, probably had packed her bag again and was expecting, now I can finally rejoin Baba and, you know, give up my post in Myrtle Beach. And the hall was cleared, and Rano was sent out to say, clear the hall. And Kitty was in the back helping some Indian pilgrims. And Rano didn't even see that Kitty was there. And Kitty, in such an understated way in her book, writes, I think that was the saddest day of my life. But, you know, when I went back and read it, I wept because, I mean, she never talked about that to me, to us. You know, she wouldn't share those, I don't know, what would you call it? These wrenching experiences, because as Baba had always said, obedience is greater than love. And she knew that's what he wanted her to do. And, you know, when I wrote my book and it was read by many people, they were so touched because it brought back their remembrances of the countless ways that Kitty had helped. I mean, thousands and thousands of people come closer to Baba and love him more and surrender to him. And it was her sacrifices, in a way, you know, that propelled her forward to be more, I think, caring and loving to all of us.
Yeah.
You know, I think suffering in a way increases your desire to be of more help to others whom you see who are suffering. So you will do whatever you can. She would do whatever she could to help us, you know, love Baba more and surrender more to him.
So I'm gonna stop one second. Guys, any questions that you have, any comments? Because I love hearing these stories, but this is your program. So this is your chance to talk with these wonderful ladies.
I have a question.
Yes, Meher.
How did Elizabeth meet Meher Baba?
Barbara, do you want to tell it?
She had a dear friend in New York. I believe Narina was the one. It was the other way. That was the other way.
Malcolm Schloss.
Oh, Malcolm Schloss from the bookstore. How interesting. Okay. So please, Kathy, go ahead.
So she said she used to go to the North Node bookstore in New York and pick these mystical Eastern religion books, like she said, like hors d'oeuvres. And Malcolm would be sort of in the back, and she'd have to call him out to get him to even receive payment for these books. And then one day he said that there was this Sri Meher Baba coming from India. Would she like to go? And she said that day, all at once, her social schedule was completely, her calendar was completely free. And she drove out, and, it's just, of course, the minute she went upstairs to the room where Meher Baba was staying in Harmon on Hudson, Croton, Harmon, north of New York City, she knew she had come home. And that was November of 1931. And it's pretty close to where some of you live in New Jersey. You could even drive up there and see the house. I'll give you directions.
Did they still have the big dog?
The first time I went, I was almost eaten alive by a Doberman Pinscher. So I was inwardly screaming Baba's name so the dog wouldn't eat me alive, but which he didn't. So I'm still here to tell the tale.
Well, I think Soham will make good friends with any dog. Right, Soham?
So Meher, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Can I ask about Elizabeth? I found I have an archive, quite a big archive of the first Israeli who came to Baba. 1956 was Kerry Ben Shammai, and in my archive, I found 3 letters by Elizabeth Patterson that she wrote to Kerry about a few things. And I discussed this with one of our friends here in Israel, and we were interested to know if there is any writings or a book that Elizabeth wrote. There's nothing.
So far, there is an Elizabeth Chapin Patterson collection that is in the hands of Wendy Haynes Connor and her husband Buzz. I think they have those writings. As you know, there is a book that Charles published, was it last year? And he's working on another one that's supposed to be coming out soon. And there is supposedly a book that Wendy Haynes Connor and Buzz are working on that's been in progress. So that's what I know at this point. Barbara, do you know anything more than that?
I don't. And I know there were letters that Elizabeth had written, which is a kind of a glimpse into her thinking and personality. Don Stevens, whenever he writes about Elizabeth, I find it very revealing because he had such incredible respect for her, especially for her honesty, her unusual truthfulness without being blunt or cruel, just very, very in tune with reality that way. And, a really distinctive quality of hers that he felt she was completely trustworthy, which stood out from other people that he knew. Not that, he knew bad people, but just ordinary people don't exactly have that kind of clear and unwavering connection to truth, even to what isn't important and what is important. That was an impression that I had on meeting her, was that she was not a person for just banter. She only wanted the real stuff.
Can we get an example of that? Because I think, there's a little bit of a confusion, right? And guys, jump in here. Baba always says, speak the truth. But I know the Mandali also said, right, that speaking, and I think it was money, right? Like speaking the truth, if it's going to hurt someone, like, say if somebody is just being awful to you, or something, like you don't want to hurt their feelings. And it's very hard to do that. So I want to ask the kids here, right? Do you guys go through these experiences where people are not nice to you? And how do you tell them that they're not being nice? And how would Elizabeth or Kitty have done that, right?
Mm.
Any examples you could share?
You're asking the kids?
No, well, maybe one of the kids can give a scenario, but then, you just said, right, Barbara, that Kitty would tell you the truth, but with that.
No, Elizabeth.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
I have a great story about that.
Okay.
I took Elizabeth downtown to I don't know what you'd call it, a sort of a shop that it dealt with sort of higher end antiques and curios and sort of a little bit higher end shop. And she had gotten some Italian parfait glasses and she wanted to get more. And we walked into this shop and the conversation was so fascinating, very revealing. Perfect example of this, Shilpa. So she asked in her very measured and, I mean, she was so poised. My God, what a poised woman. And, from a well-to-do family, fabulous education, just very soft-spoken. She said, I'm looking for some more of these parfait glasses. And she brought one out and they're from Italy. And the man was, I don't know, I would say not exactly very friendly. He was kind of a little offhand and not a little brusque and a little, I want to say rude because that's too strong, but he said, no, madam, no, ma'am, we don't have anything like that. We have these champagne glasses. And he brought them out and she said very gently, no, this is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for these. Maybe you could order these glasses there. You have very good glassware here. And he became more kind of irascible and, a little bit on edge, not very friendly. And she never lost her calm or her cool. She never her voice never changed, And he said, well, if I can find something like that, who should I say? And she finally said, well, my name is Mrs. Patterson, Elizabeth Patterson, and I live in Briarcliff Acres. And instantly he realized who she was. And he's like bent over backwards to be, I mean, the word obsequious means like, what's a good synonym for obsequious? He was just like being too nice, All at once he realized this woman's father founded Myrtle Beach, and she's one of the big names in Myrtle Beach herself. She helped set up the hospitals. She helped the hospitals, the library, she and her father, the churches, they gave money to all these organizations. And, all at once he's being super nice. And it was just, I could hardly stand it, but, but she still kept the same tone, just being very sort of friendly. And when we left and, nothing was discovered and he was going to try to find these parfait glasses from Italy, I said to Elizabeth as I was driving her back to Dilruba, I said, that man wasn't very friendly at all. And she wouldn't go there, She just said, well, he was doing the best he could. And I certainly, she sort of made excuses for him, who had been sort of rude, almost not really rude, but just unfriendly, not very helpful. She wouldn't say anything negative about him. And that struck me as a, gave me more respect for her.
So between the two, and actually I know Jeff is also here, you guys never saw them get angry or have, any of, I mean, I'm sure they got upset, but how was that, because I know most of us, we're normal human beings. We get angry, so.
Mhm. Yeah. I never, I mean, I'd see them, there was this sort of little edges of sparks, but they maybe, but it wasn't, I never saw them yelling at each other. If anything, they would be complimentary, or if there was, I could say if there was tension, one of them would leave the room or something, they would just go and kind of work it out internally and not, because Baba had said to Kitty, help Elizabeth. So she was the perfect servant.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Barbara, you were going to say something?
Well, they had spent years with Baba essentially being trained on how to behave and on why you do things anyway. I mean, everything they did was for Baba. Everything they did, they understood how Baba preferred things to be. They had lived with his moods. They had lived anticipating his feelings and wanting to be as pleasing to him as possible. So it's a very different kind of approach to any kind of action or even self-justified feeling about anything. If it all belongs to Baba and you're just trying to do it the way that he has shown you he prefers, then you do have a certain protection from getting caught up and tripped up by your own ego. Do we all understand what ego is? I know some of these guys are young, but just what you prefer, what you've already decided is what you expect, and anything other is going to make you unhappy or dissatisfied. That was no longer the prevailing motivation for things. It was really like, I know how Baba prefers people to be, and that's how I'm going to be in this situation.
Yeah. But
it looks different on each person.
Yeah. Hi, Jeff.
Yeah. Just to add that there are two levels to, say getting angry. One is superficial and one is kind of hardcore. The hardcore reactions were knocked out of them. If they were irritated, it was always kind of superficial. If they were critical, it wasn't coming from that deeper place. I don't know if that makes sense, but if they were worried, it was a superficial worry. It wasn't that complex of worry that haunts so many people.
Yeah.
If they were, that takes a long time to go from the deep hardcore emotional complexes to just more superficial emotional reactions.
So the tweens here, you have a few more minutes. Any other questions? Srinidhi, Shireen, Sahana? I think Soham may be having some connection issues. So I want to know your opinions. How did you like this program? And I think we need to have more to get to know these wonderful women, right? I mean, so inspirational. Srinidhi, you want to go first? You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked just having a conversation about the accident and about Meher Baba.
Right. But he had beautiful women, wonderful women taking care of him, right? In terms of everything and just the personality. Shireen, anything you want to add? Oh, you're mute again.
I like how selfless everyone of the Mandali were, like Elizabeth, Kitty. It was.
I think you muted yourself.
Wait, should I mute?
Yeah,
Yep.
I can hear you.
Oh, I liked how selfless like the Mandali was, like Elizabeth and Kitty.
Yeah. And Meher?
Mhm.
It's really interesting to learn about these women,
Mhm.
Mandali of Baba.
All right. We have Soham and Sahana back. Any last comments? What did you guys think of this program today?
It was good. It was very interesting learning about how, how much struggle and stuff went into, how much effort people put into tending to Baba's needs and kind of serving him.
Yeah. Sahana, last but not least.
Yeah, similar thing to what Soham said.
All right. I have one question to ask you guys. Next week is the long weekend. I know people are probably going out of town. Do we want to meet? I mean, I'm game. We can all meet if we want, but if you're in town, let's do it. What do you guys want to do?
I don't want to.
You have no, Soham, you're with me. So if I'm on, you're on.
No, that's not how it works. You ask for everyone's opinion. I want to have a week off.
Okay. All right.
No. It's not because it's
Okay,
not because
Soham. I know. I was just
it's a
teasing.
vacation week.
I know. What about
That's
you guys? Meher, Shireen, Srinidhi?
I think I might have a week off for the
Sure,
vacation.
no problem. And then Srinidhi, you're the same? You're on mute.
I think we should meet.
Okay. All right. So let's do it this way. We'll be here. I think it'll be fun to talk more, but why don't we just email and Angela, I'll let you know.